Okay, so this video is going to be all about creating a report on India. So we're going to start with our main title. So that should be in the middle of the page, at the top, underlined, all titles, subtitles, headings, subheadings, whatever you want to call them, they all have capital letters. Now, India happens to be the name of somewhere. I do not want to see people writing India with a small I. Okay, it is a place. It needs a capital letter, but especially in the title. Okay, now as we had a look at the report on India that I wrote earlier on in the week, you will know that we always start off with an introduction. Now, sometimes this introduction will have its own subtitle, like this, underlined again. I'm not using a ruler. I would like you to use a ruler. Sometimes it will just have the few sentences underneath and then go into the first subheading. Okay, but we are going to write the word introduction. Now, that introduction, it needs to tell us a little bit about India. We want to draw, we want to suck the reader in. We want the reader to know what this is about. Okay, they're not going to pick up your piece of work if they want to find out about trains. Okay, they want to find out about India, and we want to give them a few facts that keeps them, going as they move into the different sections. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we try and make it interesting, is that India. So you should all have your toolkits in your pack. Start of a sentence, capital letter, happens to be a name as well. So India. Year 2s, you should be joining your letters now. Year 1s, we've been joining sounds this year, so you could have a go at joining your sounds, if not all your writing. So India is, my second sentence from my plan was the fact that it was the second most populated country, but it will be the first, and I need to put that into a sentence. Okay, I can't just write India, second biggest, will be the first. Doesn't make sense. So India is the second. It's not big as in size, it's big as in the amount of people. So we call that the population. So it's the second most populated country. Okay, if I was reading this, I'd want to know how many people they are. So let's write that as our second sentence. If you've got space, please write it there. I don't think I've got enough space to write there, so I'm going to move on to the next line. There are 1.3 billion. Well, can't spell. People living there. Don't need to put living in India because the whole report's about India, living there. I want to talk about the fact that China has the most as well. So India is the second most populated country. There are 1.3 billion people living there. China is top, or China has the most. But as we found out at school this week, they think that India will overtake them. So China has the most at the moment. Full stop. Okay, let's just go back over what I've done and see if we can improve that sentence in any way. So India is the second most populated country. There are 1.3 billion people living there. China has the most at the moment. I think we could possibly join some of these sentences together. So India is the second most populated country. There are 1.3 billion people living there, but China has the most at the moment. I think we're going to rub out that and put "and" there. So India is the most populated country, and so because I've rubbed out the capital letter, the full stop, I need to make that a small t. And there are 1.3 billion people living there. China has the most at the moment, but will be overtaken in the next 10 years. That's what we found out. Overtaken is all one word. You could write 10 as a number, or you can write 10 as a word. You should really be writing it as a word, but it's not the end of the world if you don't. Okay, so obviously we've spent a lot of time talking about adjectives and things like that. You don't need to worry too much about them in this part of the report. Okay, let's reread it again. India is the second most populated country, and there are 1.3 billion people living there. China has the most at the moment, but will be, see, this is why you need to check your work, but will be overtaken. I've got enough space to rub that out. Will be overtaken in the next 10 years. Okay, what other interesting facts could we have? So it used to be part of the British Empire. So it was part of, again, don't need to write India was part because we know we're talking about India here. India was part of the British Empire is the name of something, so it needs a capital letter. Both words. Okay. I'm going to use a bit of a cheeky word now. Another conjunction, until. We haven't talked about this one very much. So that means it's not anymore. It was part of the British Empire until 1947. Something else that we found out about in school this week. Okay. Now I could leave it there. I don't need to include anything else, but if you've got any other bits of information that doesn't really fit into your other subtitles, keep going. So actually, I thought about the flag. So the flag of India is made of three main, I'm going to use the words as well. Three main colours. And this is where we can list them. They are green, comma, white. Now we don't put comma orange because this is our last one, so we have to put and orange. It has a flower in the middle, which some say is the lily, which is the flower of India. It has a flower shape, flower in the middle. So you want to try and put as much information as you can into each section that you write. Okay, so when you come to write the next section, which for me is going to be about geography and the landscape and where China is in the world, we want to leave a line here. Then we want to move on to our next subtitle, subheading, which is geography. In other words, where is China? Okay, we're going to put something else into this part of the report as well. We'll do that at the very, very end. So, geography, where is it? So I know that China is, no, we're not talking about China. We're talking about India. It's all well and good knowing where China is, but we're doing about India. Got carried away. India is in Asia. Asia is the name of a place, remember, so it needs a capital letter. It's a bit of a funny spelling for Asia. India is in Asia. If you wanted to be really specific, you could say that it was in South Asia. Okay, what else do we want to know about India? Well, what kind of shape is it? Okay, it's shaped like a triangle or shaped like a tooth. You can choose whichever one you want. It is the shape of a triangle. Some of you might want to say it's an upside down triangle, but it's still a triangle no matter which way you put it. So a triangle, that is still a triangle, that is a triangle, and that is a triangle. Okay, there's no such thing as an upside down triangle really. So India is in Asia. It is in the shape of a triangle. Okay, what is around India? Okay, so India is surrounded mostly by sea, by the Indian Ocean. India is surrounded by, I'm going to run out of space I think, the Indian Ocean in the south. So that's at the bottom. Can't really put at the bottom. In the south. So what's in the north then? Well, that's everything else. So at the north of India, at the top, is the Himalayan mountains. So let's write that down. In the north, or in the north, are the Himalayan, again it's a name, Himalayan mountains. The tallest mountain, and you could put a bit of extra information saying that they are the tallest mountains in the world. The tallest mountains, mountain range in the world. Horrible handwriting, I do apologise. Now I've run out of space. So let's just have a go and read over this little bit down the bottom, see if we can improve it in any way. India is in, I am going to put South Asia. India is in South Asia. It is the shape of a triangle. Okay, India is surrounded by the Indian Ocean in the south. In the north are the Himalayan mountains, the tallest range in the world. And you can carry on. You can talk about the countries that are around it. Okay, does it have anything else in the countries? Well, it's so big. It has everything. It has forests, it has plains, it has deserts, it has mountains, and because of that, it also has lots and lots of wildlife as well. So you could actually put that into the geography part, and you could list some of the animals that you can find. So you could talk about the fact that it's got snow leopards, it's got tigers in its jungles, it's got elephants on its plains. You could even talk about the difference between the Indian elephant and the African elephant, if you wanted to. It's really up to you how much detail you want to go into. What we want to try and stay away from is one sentence in each section. There's got to be more than that. You're looking at 2, possibly 3 for each section at the absolute minimum. You want to try and go further if you want to. And then looking down your sheet, you then got about the people. So where do the people live? What do the people do? And then you've also got the one about food. So again, you could talk about, so you could talk about your favourite food. Now, I did say that I was going to do something different for the geography bit, okay? And I'm going to put a question in there as well, okay? So we've actually got here, if I read this, India is in Southeast and South Asia. It is the shape of a triangle. India, you could say, it is surrounded by the Indian Ocean in the south. And let's take that away. Let's improve that by putting and. And in the north are the Himalayan mountains, the tallest mountain range in the world. Well, that's actually quite a surprising fact. So we could put an exclamation mark there. But what I wanted to finish off with was a question. And my question would be, because you're asking the reader, have you ever been? Question mark. Now that, you could put that here. You could put that in the introduction. I decided to put it in the geography part. You've got to pick and choose where you put your questions. You could say, you could ask in the food one, what's your favourite dish? Okay. In the people one, have you ever met any Indian people? Have you got Indian people in your family? Distant cousins, relations? I don't know. So you can think about putting in questions as you go. Well, I've run out of room. This is obviously just the first 2 parts. You've got 6 parts to do. I just want to go over the interesting fact bit, because we do that in a slightly different way, in the fact that we use something called a bullet point, which we've never used before really, unless we're doing instructions. So here we've got interesting fact. It's interesting, not intra-resting. Interesting fact. If you've got more than one, it's plural, so you need to put an S on the end. Then get your ruler out and draw a line underneath. So the interesting fact is a bullet point. So right at the edge of the page, we just put a nice big circle. Not too big, I don't want something like this. Okay, that's just silly. It just needs to be it just needs to be there to show that it's obvious. Okay, now the two interesting facts that we came up with in class were the national flour, not flour that you bake with, the national, good homophone there. The national flour is the, I've forgotten what it is. That's really bad. It's completely gone out of my head. I haven't got it written down on my notes either. That's really embarrassing. The national flower is, it's not the lily. Right, let's think of another one. So let's go for the national bird. Or the national animal, actually, because the bird was the one I did. So the national animal is the tiger. Okay, and my other interesting fact, so again, full stop there. I need to start a new line for my next interesting fact. And this is going to be something completely random, but a man called Christopher Columbus not the director of Harry Potter, Christopher Columbus discovered America trying to reach India. Which is why when the Native Americans, that we call them now, used to be called Red Indians, because Christopher Columbus thought he'd gone all the way around the world and gone to India, but in fact he'd discovered America, which nobody knew existed. So those are my two interesting facts. So it's just slightly different layout in the fact that you've still got your subtitle, but we've got our two bullet points. I just remembered what the flower was. I'm going to put a third one. The national flower is the lotus. There we go. I knew it would come to me eventually. Right, so that will be your last bit. Now, obviously for Friday or Thursday, depending on how quickly you write this, that is when you go back, you reread all your work, and you see if you can improve it. So that is about adding in extra information, putting in some conjunctions, maybe adding an extra interesting fact or an extra sentence at the end. So what you might want to do when you write the report is just leave 2 or 3 lines after each section, just in case you want to come back in and add anything else in at the end, or add a question in, or add something really interesting into each of your sections. Obviously get your common exception words list out and make sure they're being spelt correctly. Check that you've got your full stops and your capital letters in the correct place. You've not just got capital letters at the start of sentences, but you're using capital letters for I, the pronoun, and any other days of the week, any names, anything like any places, they all need capital letters, please. And make sure that handwriting's nice and neat as well. Okay, looking forward to seeing and reading some of these reports. Good luck, and off you go.